Hey guys, Kevin here from thesportsgeek.com, and in this video I'm going over my DraftKings NFL Week 14 picks. So before we move on to Week 14, let's take a look back at Week 13. A very solid week for my picks. You can see on the left here we had Fitzpatrick and Marshall, my favorite stack. Fitzpatrick 28 points, Marshall 34. Amendola was cheap, he put up 20 points. Newton and Olsen was my second favorite stack. Newton put up 40 points, Olsen 23. David Johnson, cheap running back, put up 20 points. Broncos D was my favorite pick of the week for defense, and they put up 23, one of the top defenses of the week. And just two busts on the week with Kelsey at 7.2 and Hilton at 6.6. And then besides all those solid picks on the left, I also emailed out Antonio Brown, who's one of the top receivers of the week, putting up over 40 points. D'Angelo Williams, one of the top running backs, and Walker, one of the top tight ends. So if you guys aren't signed up for my emailed picks, make sure you click on the link for the lineup tool below. That will also sign you up for the picks emailed out weekly as well. I got a bunch of emails again this week from people who won. So if your name's not here and you sent me an email, congrats to you. But I just want to include 3 of these here before we get started on the Week 14 pick. So first of all, we've got Brian. He took down Yahoo's largest GPP for $50,000. I went over to Yahoo and checked it out and took a screenshot. So congrats to Brian, $50,000. That's huge. It's his first year playing DFS. So congrats again, that is awesome. And then we had Jared. He had he should have used Antonio Brown, but he still had an amazing week. Ended up winning around $500. So congrats, Jared. And Joseph, I helped him win $75. So congrats, Joseph. I like hearing about that when I help people win money. So keep emailing me if you win money. And congrats to everyone else who emailed me and didn't get up here. And if you didn't have a winning Week 13, I hope your name is up here in Week 14. So I had a suggestion that I take a look at the Millionaire Maker lineup, the winning lineup each week. So I'll do that really quickly. Thought it was a pretty good idea. This week, the guy who won it had 276 points. And if you look at his lineup here, you can either tell that he thought the Steelers were going to have a huge game, or he was a big Steelers fan, or both, I guess. He had Roethlisberger, D'Angelo Williams, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, and the Steelers defense. That's a really risky way to make your lineup, but it's also really rewarding when it hits. So the Steelers put up 45 points, and those 4 players went off. So Roethlisberger 36, Williams 23, Brown 40, Martavis Bryant 24, and then the Steelers D did really well, and then they also got a late punt return touchdown from Antonio Brown. So the Steelers D put up 21 points. So that is one way to win a GPP contest, is stacking one team that you think is going to absolutely go off. And then besides hitting on that, all his other players hit pretty much. So he had Javarius Allen, 38 points, Macklin, 29. Scott Chandler was a chalky tight end pick of the week at only 2,500. He ended up getting a late touchdown, put up 16 points. And then we had Allen Robinson, just 10.1% owned. He put up 46.3 points. So this guy absolutely nailed it. He had the Steelers stack that absolutely went off, and then every other player went off. So that's how you win a huge GPP contest. You pretty much have to nail everything. But one way you can do that is to pick a team and stack 3 or 4 players from that team. It's not always going to hit. Sometimes it's going to be a huge bust. But if you want to win a big GPP, sometimes you have to do something unique like that. Okay, moving on to my DraftKings NFL Week 14 picks. My top quarterback receiver stack is Russell Wilson, 6,300, with Doug Baldwin at 4,500. A very good stack and a very cheap stack, but it'll probably be highly owned. Russell Wilson's coming off 34, 38, and 25 DraftKings point games. They're facing a weak Ravens pass defense. Wilson has a high floor and high upside, which is great. Baldwin has 29, 12, 41, and 26 DraftKings points over his last 4 games. He wasn't targeted a lot early in the year. Now he's putting up big points with more targets. If he gets the ball thrown to him, he does good things with it. I'm expecting Wilson to keep going to Baldwin at 4,500. He's very cheap. He can put up 20, 30 plus DraftKings points, no problem if he gets enough looks. So great stack this week. It will be higher owned, but that's okay. It's my top stack of the week, and I will roll with it this week. My top running back play is David Johnson at 4,300. So this is for Thursday contests only. The Cardinals are hosting the Vikings on Thursday night. If you're watching this video after Thursday, I do have another running back play later in the video. But if you're watching this before Thursday, and if you're entering the Thursday contest, I love David Johnson this week. He had 20 DraftKings points last week, and that was with being lifted in the 4th quarter to rest for this game, which is on shorter rest. So he could have definitely put up more than 20 DraftKings points. He has double-digit DraftKings points 7 times this year, despite being a backup or 3rd-string running back most of the year. So now that he's getting the touches, I expect at least 20 DraftKings points again this week against the Vikings. So great pick here at just 4,300. My top wide receiver pick, I'm going right back with Danny Amendola at just 5,200. In his 2 starts being the number 1 receiver, he has 23 and 20 DraftKings points. If you compare him to Edelman was $8,000 or more at DraftKings in his last 4 games. Amendola should be at least 7,000, but we're getting him at just 5,200. He's not in the ideal matchup against Houston, so I'm hoping that keeps his ownership down, but I will have him a ton. I think he should be up over 7,000 for sure, and I think he'll put up 20 or more DraftKings points yet again. So my top tight end pick of the week is Austin Seferian-Jenkins at 2,700. This is a risky pick. He didn't play in a majority of the snaps in his first game back last week, so I'm basically taking a risk that he will be playing quite a bit this week. And last week, even though he didn't play in a majority of the snaps, he was still targeted 6 times and caught 3 passes for 31 yards. We do know that he has high upside. In week 2, he caught 4 passes for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this week, the Bucs are facing the Saints, the worst defense in the league. So I'm expecting Austin Seferian-Jenkins to have a pretty good game. $2,700. I'm going to take a risk on him this week. Okay, so 5 more DraftKings Week 14 picks. Another top quarterback of mine is Jameis Winston at 5,500. So like I mentioned when we were looking at the Millionaire Maker lineup, one of the ways to win the GPPs is to stack 3-4 guys from the same team if you think they're going to have a huge game. I think the Bucs are going to have a huge game this week, so I'll be stacking Winston with Seferian-Jenkins, Evans, Jackson, and Doug Martin. Maybe not all in the same lineup, but I'll have different mixtures of those players. The Saints defense is awful all around. The Bucs should have little troubles moving the ball on them. Winston surprisingly has been a solid fantasy quarterback this year, although he's only had 1 big game versus the Eagles a couple weeks ago. He threw for 5 touchdowns and had 29 DK points in that game. He does have the high upside, and he's in a good spot to beat that DraftKings score of 29 this week against the Saints. Just $500 over the minimum price. I think he's a great play this week. And then another favorite running back of mine this week is Doug Martin at 6,200. He's coming off a game where he had 25 carries and he had 95 yards and a touchdown. Now he's going up against the Saints, who are giving up a league worst 4.9 rushing yards against per carry. Doug Martin should have plenty of red zone opportunities and plenty of touches on the ball. He's put up 25 or more DraftKings points 3 times already this season, and it could happen again this week against the brutal Saints defense. So another tight end pick, I can't leave him out. Greg Olsen, 6,900. Olsen is worth a look every week, and this week the Panthers are facing a Falcons defense that are below average against tight ends. Olsen is a consistent favorite target of Newton, has put up double-digit DraftKings points in 6 straight games, and has 3 games this season of over 20 DraftKings points. So I'll be taking Olsen quite a bit again this week. One of my favorite wide receiver plays of the week is Jarvis Landry at 6,300. He's got a great matchup on Monday night versus the Giants, who have one of the worst defenses in the league. The Giants rank 29th in yards against per play and 26th in yards against per passing attempt. Landry is coming off a brutal 2.5 DraftKings point game, and because of that, his ownership should be low. Prior to that, he had double-digit DraftKings points in every game this year and 20 or more points in 5 games. So he's an elite receiver at a cheap price in a good matchup, and he might be lower owned than usual. And then my favorite defense special team play of the week is the Chiefs at 3,200. They're hosting the Chargers, who are really hurting on offense right now with injuries. Last week, the Chargers put up just 3 points at home against the Broncos, and although that was against the top defense in the NFL, the Chiefs do have a solid and underrated defense. Kansas City is 6th in the NFL, giving up just 5.2 yards per play. So the Chiefs will be my top defense of the week. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by clicking the thumbs up button on YouTube so I know to keep making them. As long as we can get 1,000 thumbs up on YouTube, I'll make one again for week 15. And if you don't have access to my lineup generator tool, you can get that for free by clicking on a link in the YouTube description below. That's absolutely free, and you'll get my email picks as well. As always guys, good luck in your contest. Hope you guys make some money this week. Cheers.